I gave my son and his wife everything. Money, love, support, and in return for my birthday I received only a pair of rubber dishwashing gloves, like a slap in the face from the people I cared about most. But how ironic and sweet it was to see how a few days later my daughter-in-law begged me to give her a job at the Soybean Cafe. So I gave her a job as a dishwasher and the same gloves she had given me. But that was not the end of it. The diner's bell jingled as another guest stepped into Elder's diner. The air thick with the scent of fresh coffee and warm apple pie. I stood behind the counter, my apron crisp, my smile practiced, greeting locals who'd known me for decades. At 56, I was the heart of this place, my place. The wooden tables glowed under soft yellow lights, crowded with family, staff, and neighbors here to celebrate my birthday. Laughter bounced off the checkered floor, but a faint tightness in my chest warned me. Kelly, my daughter-in-law, sat at the far end, her manicured nails tapping the table, her lips curled in a way that didn't reach her eyes. I moved through the crowd, accepting hugs and gift bags that crinkled like ball gowns. "Marge, you don't look a day over 40, old Mrs. Carver teased, pressing a knitted scarf into my hands. I chuckled, tucking a gray strand behind my ear. The gifts piled up. Candles, a cookbook, a bottle of wine. Each one warm, thoughtful. Then Kelly stood, her heels clicking as she approached with a small neon yellow package. The room hushed. She held it out, her smile sharp as a blade. "For you, Marge, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Something practical." I untied the ribbon, the paper falling away to reveal a pair of rubber dishwashing gloves, the kind you'd find in a discount bin. Bright garish yellow. "They suit you," Kelly added, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Don't you think?" Laughter rippled through the guests, some nervous, some oblivious. My son Richard, her husband, shifted in his seat, his jaw tight. I held the gloves, their rubbery scent stinging my nose. My fingers tightened, the material squeaking faintly under my grip. I remembered the designer purse I'd bought Kelly years ago, hoping to make her feel like family. A $300 mistake. My smile didn't waver, but my eyes locked on hers, and for a split second, her smirk faltered. "Thank you, Kelly," I said, my voice smooth as the countertop. "So thoughtful." I set the gloves down, the chatter resuming, but the air felt heavier, like a storm brewing. "Careful, Marge, Kelly said, leaning closer, her perfume cloying. "Those hands of yours work so hard. Wouldn't want them ruined." Her tone was playful, but the jab landed. I tilted my head, letting a hint of irony creep into my reply. "Oh, don't worry. I know how to keep things clean." A few guests chuckled, thinking it a joke. Kelly's eyes narrowed, but she laughed it off, retreating to her seat. I excused myself, slipping through the swinging door to the kitchen. The clatter of pans and the hiss of the grill greeted me, a familiar comfort. Alone for a moment, I pulled a small notebook from my apron pocket, its edges worn from years of use. I scribbled a single word, Kelly. The pen pressed harder than necessary, the ink bleeding slightly. I snapped the notebook shut, my pulse steady but my mind racing. This wasn't just a petty slight. It was a declaration, and I wasn't one to let things slide. Back in the dining room, I poured coffee, laughed at jokes, and played the gracious host. But as the night wore on, I caught Kelly watching me, her expression unreadable. I carried the gloves to the counter, their yellow glow mocking me under the lights. I folded them neatly, tucking them into a drawer. As I closed it, I whispered to myself, "You'll regret this." The words were soft, but they carried a weight that settled deep in my bones. I turned back to the party, my smile brighter than ever, but my mind was already elsewhere, plotting the first move. The next morning, I sat at the worn oak desk in my office, the diner's heartbeat pulsing beyond the closed door. The room was small, cluttered with family photos and stacks of invoices, the air heavy with the scent of brewed coffee that never quite left. Those yellow gloves lay on the desk, a garish reminder of last night. I picked them up, their rubbery weight cold in my hands, and tossed them into a drawer with a soft thud. Enough wallowing. It was time to act. I flipped open the diner's ledger, my pen scratching notes in the margins. Numbers danced across the pages: sales, expenses, payroll. Elder's Diner was my fortress, built from years of sweat after my husband's death. I wasn't about to let Kelly's venom seep into its walls. My phone buzzed and I dialed my lawyer, keeping my voice low. "Tom, I need you to look into the diner's paperwork. Everything. Just to be safe." He asked no questions, only promised to call back. Good. I hung up, my fingers drumming the desk. The door creaked open, and there she was, Kelly, in a silk blouse that screamed money she didn't have. "Morning, Marge, she said, her tone syrupy, like she hadn't humiliated me in front of half the town. "Thought I'd drop by, clear the air." She leaned against the doorframe, her arms crossed, her eyes scanning the room like she was pricing it. I remembered the vacation I'd paid for. A week in Florida to keep peace with Richard. Another mistake. I leaned back in my chair, forcing a smile. Air's clear enough, Kelly. Coffee? She waved a hand, her bracelets jangling. No thanks. I didn't mean to upset you last night. The gloves were a joke. Her lips twitched, betraying the lie. I nodded, letting the silence stretch until she shifted uncomfortably. Well, good, I said, my voice warm but edged. Since we're past that, I've got an idea. You're tight on cash, right? Why not work here? We need a dishwasher. Kelly laughed, a sharp, incredulous sound. Me? Washing dishes? She gestured to her outfit, as if it explained everything. I tilted my head, my smile unwavering. You love shiny things, don't you? Start with the plates. It's honest work. Her laughter faded, replaced by a flicker of unease. She opened her mouth to protest, but I cut in. I know things are tough. Richard mentioned the bills. This could help. Her jaw tightened at Richard's name, and I knew I'd hit a nerve. She paced a step, her heels clicking on the hardwood. This is ridiculous, Marged. I'm not some. She stopped, catching herself. I raised an eyebrow, waiting. Finally, she sighed, her shoulders slumping. Fine. Temporarily. Just until I sort things out. I nodded, handing her an apron from a hook. Start tomorrow. Kitchen's waiting. She took it like it was contaminated, her lips pressed thin. As she turned to leave, I called after her. Oh, and Kelly? Wear something you don't mind getting wet. The door swung shut behind her, and I leaned back, my pulse steady. I pulled out my notebook, flipping to a fresh page. Step 1, Kelly in the kitchen. I wrote the words slowly, savoring the ink's flow. The diner's hum filtered through the walls, clinking dishes, muffled laughter. My territory. My rules. I closed the notebook, a faint smile curling my lips. The game had begun, and Kelly had no idea she'd just stepped onto my board. The kitchen was a furnace, steam curling from pots, the air thick with the tang of grease and bleach. Kelly stood at the sink, elbow deep in soapy water, her silk blouse swapped for a stained t-shirt that clung to her sweat-dampened back. Her hair, usually a sleek cascade, was pinned up haphazardly, strands escaping like frayed wires. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her scrub a plate with a scowl that could curdle milk. My diner, my rules. And today, Kelly was learning them the hard way. Missed a spot, I said, pointing to a smudge of gravy on the plate she'd just set aside. Her hands froze, the sponge dripping into the sink. She turned, her eyes flashing. This is ridiculous, Marged. She snapped, her voice tight. I've been at this for hours. It's humiliating. I tilted my head, my tone calm but laced with steel. Work's work, Kelly. You're not afraid of a little dirt, are you? She muttered something under her breath, plunging the plate back into the water with a splash. I handed her a bucket of murky mop water, the handle slick with grime. Floors need doing next, I said. You wanted to help. Right. Her jaw clenched, but she took the bucket, her knuckles whitening around the handle. I turned away, hiding a faint smile. After my husband died, I'd learned to run this place alone. Sleepless nights, endless books, and a will that wouldn't break. Kelly thought she could outmaneuver me? She was about to learn. I moved through the kitchen, checking on the cooks, my voice steady as I gave orders. The diner's rhythm was mine to conduct. As I passed the waitstaff station, Ellie, one of my longest-serving waitresses, pulled me aside. Heard something odd, she whispered, glancing toward Kelly. Kelly's been bragging to her friends. Says she's got plans for this place. Big plans. My pulse quickened, but I kept my face neutral. Interesting, I said, my mind already turning. Keep your ears open, Ellie. Back in the kitchen, I caught Kelly on her phone, her voice low but urgent. I stayed out of sight, the swinging door barely cracked. I'll make her sell, she hissed. This dump's worth more than she thinks. My blood ran cold, but I didn't move. Sell my diner? The place I'd built from nothing? I slipped my notebook from my apron, jotting down her words, my pen steady despite the anger coiling in my chest. Kelly hung up, oblivious, and returned to the sink, her movements sharp with frustration. I stepped back into the kitchen, my expression serene. Everything all right, Kelly? I asked, my voice honey-sweet. She flinched, nearly dropping a plate. Fine, she muttered, not meeting my eyes. I nodded, moving past her to check the grill. But my mind was racing. Kelly wasn't just a nuisance, she was a threat. And threats needed to be handled. I glanced at the notebook in my pocket, its weight a quiet promise. Step 1 was in motion, but step 2 was coming faster than she'd expect. The diner was a ghost town after closing, its warmth replaced by a hollow quiet that pressed against the walls. The checkered floor gleamed under the dimmed lights, Chairs stacked upside down on tables like silent sentinels. I sat at a corner booth, the ledger open before me, its pages a map of my life's work. My pen scratched numbers cross-referencing receipts, but my ears were tuned to the faint murmur from the kitchen. The swinging door was ajar, and through it came voices, Kelly's sharp, insistent, and Richard's, my son's, low and unsteady. I set the pen down, my fingers brushing the worn edge of my notebook. The air smelled of lemon cleaner and stale coffee, a faint reminder of the day's bustle. I'd built Elder's Diner from nothing after my husband's death, teaching myself to balance books while Richard was still in school. I'd paid for his college, thinking he'd carry this place forward. Now his voice carried a different plan. "It's worth more sold," he said, the words slicing through the quiet. "Kelly's right. We could cash out." My chest tightened, but I didn't move, my breath shallow as I listened. Kelly's laugh was a needle. "She's stubborn, but we'll push her. The diner's ours by right." "Ours?" My fingers curled into fists, nails biting my palms. I slipped the notebook from my apron, jotting down their words. The pen scratched louder in my ears than it should have been. The kitchen door creaked, and their voices faded. I stood, my movements deliberate, and pushed through the door. Richard froze, a dish towel in his hands, Kelly beside him with a smirk that vanished when she saw my face. "Richard," I said, my voice calm but heavy, like the calm before a storm. "We need to talk. Now." Kelly opened her mouth, but I raised a hand, silencing her. "Alone." She huffed, brushing past me, her heels clicking toward the exit. Richard's shoulders slumped, his eyes avoiding mine. He looked like the boy I'd raised, but the man before me was a stranger. "What's this about, Mom?" he asked, his voice thin. I leaned against the counter, the steel cool against my back. "I heard you. Selling my diner? My life." His face paled, his mouth working soundlessly. "It's not like that," he stammered. We need the money. You're getting older and..." I cut him off, my voice sharp. "Don't you dare. This place is mine. You think you can take it?" His eyes darted to the door. But I stepped closer, my gaze pinning him. "You're my son, but you're not my boss." He rubbed his neck, his fingers trembling. "Kelly said it'd be easy. I didn't mean..." I shook my head, my heart aching but my resolve iron. "Go home, Richard. Think about whose side you're on." He nodded, shuffling out, the bell jingling as the door closed. Alone, I pulled out my phone and dialed Tom, my lawyer. "It's worse than I thought," I said, my voice low. "Richard's in on it. Locked down everything." Tom's reply was steady, promising action. I hung up, staring at the ledger. My son had betrayed me, but I wasn't done fighting. Not by a long shot. I opened the notebook, adding a new line, "Richard's choice." The words stared back, a challenge I was ready to meet. The diner buzzed with life, transformed for the annual charity night. Strings of white lights draped the walls, casting a warm glow over tables laden with pies and casseroles. Locals mingled, their laughter mingling with the clink of glasses, all here to support the town's food bank. I moved through the crowd, my apron swapped for a navy dress, my smile as much a fixture as the diner itself. But my eyes were on Kelly, hunched over a mop in the corner, her face flushed as she scrubbed a spill under the watchful gazes of guests. I planned this moment carefully. Kelly's dishwasher role had evolved into all-purpose cleaner tonight, her tasks visible to every gossip in town. I handed her a rag earlier, my voice sweet. "Spills happen, Kelly. Make it shine." She glared, but the crowd left her no choice. Now, as she wiped the floor, her designer jeans soaked at the knees, whispers rippled through the room. I caught fragments. "Kelly cleaning? Never thought I'd see it." I kept my expression neutral, but inside I savored the sting. "Looking lovely, Marchda," Mrs. Carver called, waving me over. I joined her table, accepting compliments on the event while keeping Kelly in my peripheral vision. She stood, wiping sweat from her brow, and caught my eye. I raised my glass slightly, a silent toast. Her lips tightened and she turned away, grabbing a tray of dirty plates. "Kelly's quite the help tonight," I said to Mrs. Carver, my tone light. "Learning the ropes." The older woman chuckled, but her eyes gleamed with curiosity. Linda, a local realtor and Kelly's friend, approached, her perfume sharp as her smile. "Marchda, this is wonderful," she said, but her gaze flicked to Kelly, envy flickering in her eyes. I'd helped Linda years ago, co-signing a loan when her business faltered. She'd repaid me, but never with warmth. "Kelly's fitting right in," Linda added, her voice syrupy. I tilted my head, my reply laced with irony. "Oh, she's a natural. Loves getting her hands dirty." Linda's smile wavered, and I knew she'd caught the barb. Kelly stormed over, her tray clattering. "This is too much, Marchda," she hissed, low enough to avoid attention. "I'm not your maid." I leaned in, my voice soft but firm. You're helping the community, Kelly. Isn't that what you wanted? Her eyes flashed, but she backed off, the crowd's eyes on her. As she retreated, I overheard Linda whispering to a friend. She thinks she's above it, but Marge just got her number. The words sparked a new idea. Linda's envy was a thread I could pull. I mingled, shaking hands, but my mind was on Linda now. Kelly was a pawn, but Linda's ambition made her dangerous. I slipped my notebook from my purse, jotting a quick note. Linda's jealousy. The charity night hummed around me, but my focus sharpened. Kelly's humiliation was sweet, but Linda was next. I tucked the notebook away, my smile unwavering as I scanned the room, already plotting the next move. My office felt like a bunker, its walls lined with memories, photos of the diner's opening, Richard as a boy, my husband's smile frozen in time. The air was thick with the scent of ink and old wood, the desk buried under documents Tom had sent over. I pored over them, my glasses slipping down my nose, each page a weapon in my hands. Richard and Kelly thought they could sell my diner, but I'd learned to protect what was mine long ago, balancing books through sleepless nights after my husband's death. Numbers were my language, and I spoke it fluently. Tom sat across from me, his tie loosened, his voice steady as he outlined the plan. We've frozen the accounts tied to Richard's name, he said, sliding a report my way. He can't touch the diner's funds. Legal ownership is airtight, your name only. I nodded, signing where he pointed, the pen's weight grounding me. And the loan he took out? I asked, my voice clipped. Tom's eyes met mine. Called in. He'll feel the pinch soon. I leaned back, a faint smile tugging at my lips. Step 2 was falling into place. The door creaked, and Richard stepped in, his face drawn, eyes bloodshot. He hadn't slept, and it showed in the slump of his shoulders. Mom, we need to talk, he said, his voice cracking. I gestured to the chair, my expression neutral. Sit. He hesitated, then sank into it, his hands fidgeting. I got a notice from the bank, he said. My accounts, they're locked. What's going on? I slid the report across the desk, its pages crisp under my fingers. You tell me, Richard. Planning to sell my diner wasn't enough? You thought you could use my money for it? His eyes widened, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. I didn't, Kelly said. I raised a hand, cutting him off. Kelly's not your mother. I am. And I trusted you. My voice was steady, but the hurt bled through, sharp and raw. He looked away, his fingers twisting together. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't know it'd go this far. I leaned forward, my gaze unrelenting. You chose her over me. Now you live with it. He stood pacing, his shoes scuffing the floor. What am I supposed to do? I've got nothing. I picked up the report, tapping it lightly. You've got a wife who's got big ideas. Maybe ask her. His face crumpled, but I didn't soften. I'd raised him, loved him, but love didn't mean blindness. He left without another word, the door clicking shut. I opened my notebook, adding a line, Richard's accounts. The ink settled, a quiet victory. But the war wasn't over. I glanced at the documents, my mind already on the next strike, the next name in my book. The diner hummed with the energy of the weekly book club. Tables pushed together to form a long crescent, covered with plates of scones and steaming coffee pots. The air carried the sweet tang of fresh pastries, mingling with the murmur of voices as locals settled in, their chairs scraping the checkered floor. I stood by the bulletin board, pinning up the evening's agenda, my fingers brushing the edge of a folder tucked beneath it. Inside were printouts, texts, emails, scraps of Linda's venom, collected quietly over weeks. Tonight, she'd learn what happens when you whisper lies about me. I moved through the crowd, my apron swapped for a crisp blouse, my smile warm but calculated. Evening, everyone, I said, raising my voice just enough to hush the chatter. Let's talk about trust tonight, shall we? The room nodded, unaware of the storm I was brewing. Kelly lingered near the back, her arms crossed, her eyes darting to Linda, who sat at the center table, her laugh too loud, her jewelry glinting like a warning. I'd lent Linda money years ago, thinking it would build a bridge. Instead, she'd spun tales of my greed, and I kept every receipt of her deceit. As I handed out the book club flyers, I slipped in the printouts, each one a dagger aimed at Linda's reputation. Oh, and take one of these, I said, my tone casual. A little community reminder. The papers rustled, and whispers grew as people scanned the pages. Linda's smile froze, her fingers tightening on her coffee cup. I stepped to the front, holding up a single sheet. Someone's been busy, I said, my voice steady. Spreading stories about my diner, my family. Care to explain, Linda? She shot to her feet, her chair scraping back. This is nonsense, Marge Doy. She snapped, her voice shrill. You're making this up. I tilted my head, my eyes locking on hers. Am I? Then why's your name on every message, calling me a miser? Saying my diner's failing. I read aloud, my words clear and sharp. Marge is hoarding cash while we scrape by. Sound familiar? The room gasped, heads turning to Linda, whose face flushed crimson, her hands trembling. I didn't mean it like that, she stammered, but the crowd's murmurs drowned her. Lies hurt, Linda, I said, my tone soft but cutting. Especially when they're about family. Mrs. Carver nodded, her voice rising. Shame on you, Linda. Others joined in, their support a warm tide at my back. Linda grabbed her purse, her heels clicking as she fled, the door slamming behind her. I caught Kelly's eye, her face pale, and gave her a small nod. One ally down. I turned back to the group, my smile returning. Let's move on, I said, gesturing to the books. Plenty to discuss. The chatter resumed, louder now, laced with praise for my courage. I slipped my notebook from my pocket, adding a line, Linda's fall. The ink settled, a mark of justice. But my eyes lingered on the door Linda had fled through, its faint creak echoing in my mind. Kelly was watching, and I knew she'd try to strike back. I was ready. The kitchen was a furnace, the air thick with the sizzle of burgers and the sharp scent of onions caramelizing on the grill. Lunch rush had the diner pulsing, waitresses weaving through tables, their trays piled high. I stood by the pass-through, checking orders, but my attention was on the whispers among the staff. The younger waitresses kept their heads down, avoiding my gaze, their voices hushed. Something was off, and I knew who was behind it. Kelly, scrubbing pots at the sink, her face set in a scowl, had been busy sowing discord. I approached Ellie, my most trusted waitress, who was refilling coffee pots. What's going on? I asked, keeping my voice low. She hesitated, then leaned in. Kelly's been talking, Marge. Says you're too hard on her, that you're pushing everyone too far. I nodded, my jaw tight. I'd hired Ellie first, back when the diner was just a dream, teaching her the ropes and building a family here. Kelly thought she could turn my people against me? She was about to learn how deep loyalty runs. I called a quick huddle in the kitchen, the staff gathering amid the clatter of pans. You're all doing great, I said, my smile genuine. This place thrives because of you. Their faces softened, but Kelly's eyes burned, her sponge dripping into the sink. Kelly, stay back and scrub the stove, I added, my tone light but firm. It's looking rough. She glared but nodded, her movements jerky. As the others dispersed, I lingered, my phone discreetly recording as Kelly muttered to a young waiter. Marge is a tyrant. She'll run this place into the ground. I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the kitchen's din. Got something to share, Kelly? She froze, her eyes darting to the waiter, who backed away. I heard you, I said, holding up my phone. And so will they. I played the clip, Kelly's voice sharp and bitter, accusing me of cruelty. The staff exchanged glances, their loyalty clear. Ellie spoke up, her voice firm. You're wrong, Kelly. Marge does fair. Always has been. Others nodded, their support a shield. Kelly's face twisted, her voice rising. You've turned them all against me. I stepped closer, my tone cool. I gave you a job, Kelly. You chose to lie. That's on you. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I handed her a bucket of soapy water, my smile unwavering. Finish the stove. We've got customers. She took it, her hands shaking, and I walked back to the dining room, where guests greeted me with warm smiles. The staff's chatter resumed, laced with respect for my fairness. Alone in the kitchen, Kelly scrubbed, isolated, her plan in tatters. I pulled out my notebook, adding a line, Kelly's lies. The diner's rhythm pulsed around me, strong and steady. My people were with me, and Kelly was running out of moves. I tucked the notebook away, my eyes on the swinging door to the kitchen, wondering how desperate she'd get next. My office was a fortress, its walls lined with faded photos and the faint scent of coffee that clung to everything. I sat at the desk, a letter from Tom open before me, its words a shield. Assets secure, ownership uncontested. I underlined the line, my pen steady, my mind sharp. The diner was mine, forged through years of grit alongside my husband, our dream etched into every plank and plate. Richard's betrayal stung, but I was ready. The clock ticked softly, its rhythm a quiet ally in the stillness. The door burst open and Richard stormed in, his face flushed, a crumpled bank notice in his fist. You've gone too far, Mom, he shouted, slamming the paper on the desk. His eyes were wild, his knuckles white. I leaned back, my expression calm, and placed Tom's letter atop his notice, its weight deliberate. What's too far, Richard? I asked, my voice even. Locking you out of my diner's accounts? Or finding out you plan to sell it? He paced, his shoes scuffing the floor, his hands raking through his hair. I'll sue you, he said, his voice cracking. I'll take this place. You can't do this to me. I folded my hands, my gaze unflinching. Go ahead, Richard. But check the deeds first. Whose name's on them? He froze, his breath hitching. I picked up the phone, dialing Tom, my eyes never leaving Richard's. Tom, everything set? I asked, my tone crisp. Good. Just confirming. I hung up, a faint smile curving my lips. Richard's shoulders slumped, but he rallied, his voice rising. You think you've won? I'm your son. You owe me. I stood, my chair scraping back, my voice low and firm. I owe you love, Richard. Not my life's work. You chose Kelly's lies over me. His face crumpled, but I didn't waver. Get out, I said, pointing to the door. Think hard about your next move. He hesitated, then turned, the door clicking shut behind him. Alone, I sank into the chair, my eyes falling on a photo of my husband. His grin wide as we cut the diner's opening ribbon. We'd built this together, and I'd sworn to protect it. I won't give up, I whispered, my voice steady. I opened my notebook, adding a line, Richard's threat. The ink dried, a promise of battles to come. My fingers brushed the letter, its words a quiet strength. The fight wasn't over, but I was ready for whatever came through that door next. The diner sparkled under strings of golden lights, its tables draped in white cloths for the anniversary celebration of Elder's Diner. The air buzzed with laughter, the clink of glasses, and the warm scent of cinnamon rolls fresh from the oven. I stood by the entrance, clipboard in hand, checking the guest list as locals poured in, their smiles a testament to the diner's place in their hearts. But my eyes were on Kelly, fumbling with a tray of silverware at the VIP table, her face tight with strain. Tonight I'd make sure she'd never forget her place. I'd given her the task of setting the mayor's table, precise high-stakes work she was bound to botch. Make it perfect, Kelly, I'd said earlier, my voice sweet as pie. You wanted to shine, didn't you? She'd nodded, her jaw clenched, unaware of the trap. Now, as she arranged napkins, her hands shook, folding them unevenly. I mingled with guests, my navy dress swishing, my smile unwavering, but I kept her in my sights. Years ago, I tried teaching her my apple pie recipe, hoping to bond. She'd laughed, calling it quaint. Tonight she'd taste regret. The mayor arrived, his wife on his arm, and I guided them to their table. Kelly stepped forward, offering a glass of wine, but her grip faltered. The glass tipped, red wine splashing across the white cloth, a stark stain that drew gasps from nearby guests. Oh, Kelly, I said, my tone laced with mock sympathy, loud enough for all to hear. Accidents happen. Let's get that cleaned up. Her face burned, her eyes darting to the crowd as whispers spread. I didn't mean to, she hissed, grabbing a rag, her voice barely audible. I leaned in, my smile sharp. You wanted to be part of this place, didn't you? Keep going. The guests watched, some chuckling, others shaking their heads. Kelly's next move was worse. She reached for a fresh glass, but her elbow knocked over a tray, sending it crashing to the floor. Shards sparkled under the lights and a voice called out, She's not cut out for this. I raised an eyebrow, letting the moment sink in. I turned to the crowd, my voice warm. Thank you all for celebrating 30 years of Elder's Diner, I said, raising a glass. This place is our home, built on hard work. Cheers erupted, drowning out Kelly's frantic scrubbing. She fled to the kitchen, the swinging door slamming behind her. I sipped my wine, catching Mrs. Carver's eye. Heard Kelly's leaving town, she whispered. Couldn't handle the heat. I nodded, my pulse steady. One enemy down. I slipped my notebook from my purse, jotting a line. Kelly's exit. The ink settled, a quiet victory. The celebration roared on, but my mind was already on the next step. I glanced at the kitchen door, its faint creak a reminder of battles still to come. Richard was out there and I wasn't done yet. My office was a sanctuary, its walls lined with memories, photos of the diner's early days, my husband's laugh captured in black and white. The desk was buried under legal documents, each one a brick in the fortress I'd built around Elder's Diner. I signed the final page, my pen gliding smoothly, the words case closed glowing in Tom's latest letter. The air smelled of old paper and faint coffee, a quiet comfort as I prepared for the endgame. The clock ticked softly, counting down to my victory. The door creaked and Richard shuffled in, his jacket rumpled, his eyes sunken. He looked like a man who'd lost everything. His swagger gone, his shoulders hunched. Mom, he said, his voice raw. I need to talk. I gestured to the chair, my expression neutral. Seat. He sank into it, his hands twisting together, his gaze fixed on the floor. I remember buying him a red bicycle, skipping my own dreams to see him smile. That boy was gone, replaced by a man who tried to steal my life's work. I was wrong, he said, his words tumbling out. I let Kelly push me. I didn't mean to hurt you. Can we fix this? His eyes met mine, pleading, but I kept my face still, my hands folded. Fix what, Richard? I asked, my voice cool. You plan to sell my diner. You chose her over me. He flinched, his fingers digging into his knees. I know, he whispered. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. I picked up Tom's letter, tapping it lightly. The diner's mine, I said. Legally, completely. You've got nothing left to bargain with. His face crumpled, but I didn't soften. I reached for the phone, dialing Tom. Everything finalized? I asked, my tone brisk. Good. Thank you. I hung up, my eyes on Richard, who looked like he might break. You don't get to walk back in and make it right, I said, my voice steady. Not after what you did. He stood, his hands shaking. Mom, please, he said, his voice breaking. I'm your son. I rose, placing a hand on his shoulder, my touch firm but not warm. Go home, Richard, I said. Figure out who you want to be. He nodded, his steps heavy as he left, the door clicking shut. I sank into my chair, my eyes falling on a photo of him as a child, his grin wide. I turned it face down, my resolve unshaken. I opened my notebook, adding a line. Richard's surrender. The ink dried, a marker of closure. The diner's hum filtered through the walls, a reminder of what I'd fought for. I stood, smoothing my dress, ready for the final act. The door loomed ahead, its handle cool under my touch, promising a new beginning just beyond. The diner glowed like a beacon, its windows spilling light onto the street as the new beginning celebration filled Elder's Diner with life. Tables brimmed with flowers, their petals catching the soft glow of chandeliers, while the air carried the scent of fresh bread and the hum of a jazz trio in the corner. I stood by the counter, adjusting a sign that read a new chapter, my fingers lingering on the words. This was my victory, hard won, and tonight the town would honor it. My husband and I had dreamed of this place as a community heart. Now it was mine alone to carry forward. I moved through the crowd, my black dress elegant but simple, my smile warm as I hugged old friends and shook hands. Marge, Dad, you've outdone yourself, Mrs. Carver said, her eyes bright. I chuckled, guiding her to a table. We did this together, I replied, my voice steady. The room was packed, but I noticed the absences, Kelly, gone from town, and Richard, nowhere in sight. My shoulders relaxed, the weight of their betrayal lifting. Ellie approached, her apron crisp, her voice low. Word is, Kelly left for good, she said. Packed up yesterday. I nodded, my pulse calm. The fight was over. I stepped to the small stage, the crowd quieting as I took the microphone. 30 years ago, I began, my voice clear. This diner opened its doors. It's my heart, my home, and no one will ever take it from me. The room erupted in applause, some guests wiping tears. I paused, my eyes sweeping the faces, loyal staff, lifelong customers, a community that had stood by me. We've faced challenges, I said, my tone firm but warm, but together we're unstoppable. Cheers rose, glasses clinking in toasts. The mayor approached, holding a polished wooden box. Marge de Elder, he said, his voice booming. You're the soul of this town. He opened the box, revealing a gleaming key, a symbolic honor. This is for you. I took it, the metal warm in my palm, my chest swelling with pride. Thank you, I said, my voice thick but steady. The crowd roared, their love a tide that carried me. I stepped down, shaking hands, but my mind was quiet, savoring the moment. As the night wound down, I stood alone by the counter, the music fading, the last guests departing. The diner was still, its warmth wrapping around me like a promise. I thought of my husband, our late-night talks about making this place a legacy. I did it, I whispered, my fingers tracing the key. The door to the kitchen stood ajar, its soft creak a final note of triumph. I turned off the lights, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. My heart full, my victory complete. If you like this story, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments what impressed you the most about this story. Also, we recommend you to listen to our previous story. It is even more shocking. Just click on the box on the left to play it. Thank you for watching.